All right, you're watching Live Now. I'm Austin Westfall. A live look at Chicago. A federal judge in Chicago is temporarily blocking the Trump administration's National Guard deployment in the city. The Trump administration and the state of Illinois facing off in federal court today to argue about the legality of the deployment. Asher Red is standing by in Chicago right now. And Asher, you were in the court. What happened?
Well, Austin, Judge April Perry, a Biden appointee, intensely questioned DOJ attorneys for well over an hour. And one of the attorneys representing the Trump administration answered most of the judge's questions with a series of ums followed with "I'm not sure." Now, the state of Illinois sued the federal government Monday to stop the National Guard deployment, calling it unlawful and unconstitutional. At one point, Judge Perry asked DOJ attorney Eric Hamilton if he even knew the definitions to some of the terms in the Trump administration's response to the lawsuit, terms like rebellion and executing law, but he couldn't answer the questions directly. The judge issued a temporary restraining order blocking President Trump's National Guard deployment in the state, ruling that the move violated the 4th and 10th Amendments. Meanwhile, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker says the National Guard deployment infringes on the state's sovereignty and right to govern itself.
Donald Trump wakes up on one side or the other of his bed, the end, the head, I don't know where, but each time he's got some new idea about how to attack our cities, and we're going to do everything we can to protect the people of Illinois.
The Trump administration sent 200 Texas National Guard troops to protect federal agents and property from violent protests. Some of those troops began guarding an ICE processing facility in nearby Broadview, Illinois, overnight. That facility has been the site of violent protests, forcing the feds to put up barriers around the building. Now, the DOJ also told the judge that federal agents recently found a makeshift bomb near that facility. Trump administration officials say federal agents in Chicago need National Guard protection.
I've seen this movie before. Unless this rhetoric stops, there will be more harm, especially to the men and women at ICE. Governor Pritzker should be calling President Trump up and thanking him for taking over 1,000 criminal aliens off the streets of his state.
And Judge Perry is acknowledging that a DOJ appeal is likely, and it's not clear what will happen with the 200 Texas National Guard troops who are already in the Chicago area. Back to you.
Fox's Asher Red reporting for us live from Chicago tonight. Thanks, Asher. A live look at the Chicago skyline. We do have standing by retired Marine Intelligence Officer and National Security Analyst Hal Kempfer. He's here with me. He's discussed the deployment of troops to Los Angeles, D.C. We've talked about the idea of troops being sent to several more cities, Hal. Of course, the Windy City is the topic of the day. Hal, President Trump has said that he would be willing to invoke the Insurrection Act if courts block his efforts. It remains unclear to us at this point if that will happen. What do we need to know about the Insurrection Act?
Well, Austin, if the Insurrection Act is actually invoked, and I guarantee it'll be challenged in court, it basically is a way to circumvent the restrictions under posse comitatus. At that point, you're basically saying the situation is so bad that state and local authorities can't actually, provide law and order on the streets, and you're sending in federal military troops in order to do that. And those federal military troops can do a lot of things that are actually prohibited under posse comitatus. They can go out there, they can stop, detain, they could technically arrest people, they could do a lot of different things under the Insurrection Act. Now, the Insurrection Act's been invoked before, famously invoked in 1992 in Los Angeles, if you remember the Rodney King riots. And it was used in Arkansas to enforce school integration back in 1957. That was under President Eisenhower. Those were not National Guard troops, by the way. Those were actually troops from the 101st Airborne Division. That is federal military at all times. It never goes into state status. That is an active duty unit. And then if you want to go way the heck back to 1794 and the Whiskey Rebellion, I know you remember that. I think you covered that, Austin. That was another time that the Insurrection Act was invoked as well. So it could be done. The issue, though, it seems to be hitting here is that these judges, first in Oregon and now in Illinois, are blocking the National Guard troops from being federalized to go do this stuff. And right now, this order that Judge Perry put out is in effect. I think it's going to be taken up to appeal. Sounds like the federal judges or the federal attorneys, U.S. DOJ attorneys in this may have made some mistakes in court that kind of hurt their argument. But what I'm hearing on the West Coast, Ninth Circuit has looked at the decision in Oregon, and it sounds like they're leaning very much towards overturning that. The idea that the president cannot federalize the National Guard, that's just something that states shouldn't be able to block.
So is this a done deal in Chicago? Can we firmly say that we will not see the deployment of National Guard troops, or is it still an open case in some regards?
I think it's just temporarily stopped.
Yeah.
I think it's still very much an open case. And depending on whenever there's an appellate decision on this, or if they don't go further with the extending this current blocking action that took place under Judge Perry, that basically you probably will see troops going there. Now, what's very interesting is that the president could potentially federalize those National Guard troops in Illinois and send them somewhere else. And then he could do what was done in 1957, send regular federal military troops up to these federal facilities in Chicago and do everything. Once they're Title 10, they're Title 10. Doesn't matter if they're sourced from the National Guard or somewhere else. And I don't know that the judge would have a lot of standing if they sent regular federal military Title 10 forces, from some base somewhere else in the country.
Guard members from Texas and Illinois arrived this week at a U.S. Army Reserve Center in Elwood, which is southwest of Chicago. All 500 of them are under the U.S. Northern Command, and they've been activated for 60 days, as you know, Hal. What have those troops actually been doing in the short time that they've been there?
Training. What they've been doing is working all the logistics issues, what they're going to need for the mission, everything else, getting everything ready to go for deploying into the city. And then the other part is training. There's a lot of specialized training they have to do, some of it dealing with potential civil unrest, special tactics, techniques, procedures, certainly a lot of use of what we call less than lethal or non-lethal techniques and capabilities that would allow them to stop the protester short of using their weapons, if you will, using less than lethal weapons, I guess you could say, or whatever it is. But there's a lot of tactical stuff they have to do, working with shields and helmets and a lot of other things. So they've been using that training. And by the way, they need every minute they can get doing that training. This is not something they do all the time. It's not something they don't do, but they don't do it all the time. And the more they train, the better they'll be. And the better they'll be, the less likely you're going to see a mistake or something that could result in an unwarranted injury or something worse.